in particular calls frame for support? You mentioned the scientific community. What is the typical driver? What is the typical role? In what problem is it that a scientist has to resolve when they call frame?
Oh, lots of different questions in there. So yes, our main service users, if you like, or beneficiaries as a charity, are scientists, and we focus primarily on biomedical research and testing. So research that's for the benefit of human disease and treatment. We work both with individual scientists and with organisations and institutions that use animals. So for an individual scientist, they often face questions such as, how can I move away from the use of animals if that's what I've always done? How do I know where to start in terms of, this is the methodology I've been trained in. I don't know where to look for alternatives. And certainly the UK legislation places an obligation on researchers to have evidence that they have looked for suitable non-animal alternatives before they can be granted a license to use animals in research. But for many people, that's quite a challenge, and it is, to be honest, often done a little poorly because scientists don't know and have the resources for where to start. So we work very closely with people on searching for alternatives, on how to rethink their research question, because often replacing animals is not you could do this with a mouse, but here you do this in this test tube instead. It involves rethinking the research question, breaking down different outcomes, thinking about whether there are in vitro or other assays that could answer particular aspects, and perhaps reduce the animal use on a pathway to replacement. So there's lots of questions that we can help people resolve. And in terms of institutions, again, there are questions around how can they facilitate that legal obligation to replace animals as far as possible. And that's something that a lot of animal using establishments really haven't got their heads around. It's been highlighted in a number of reports and publications that replacement is done quite poorly, and so there's a lot of support needed.
So there is still a long road to go to accomplish the ultimate vision in fully replacing animal testing. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, since over the last 5 decades, many accomplishments could have been celebrated that you will be proud of. What are the things that you are most proud of?
Well, as we said, FRAME has a long history, and so we've been instrumental in developing right here in the FRAME lab where we are at the University of Nottingham today, many of the in vitro tests that enabled the ban on cosmetic safety testing on animals in the UK and subsequently the EU. So we have a long and rich scientific history of working with industry, with major companies to make that possible. We've also got a very long history of working with policymakers. In the past, FRAME had what's called FRAME Toxicity Committee, bringing together a range of stakeholders to discuss issues around how that ban could take effect, and ultimately led to the formation of ECVAM, the European Institution for the Validation of Alternative Methods, which is still going today. So we continue to work absolutely on those two things, the developing innovative models for cell generation for human testing, on different cell culture models around liver toxicity of microglia, liver inflammation, and continuing to advocate for greater funding and resource to be put into innovative new methods that will enable us to go further with treatments for human diseases and conditions.
There's a lot of expertise, capability, but also I got to know your team members here. There's also a positive vibe unparalleled energy within your team. So what is it that partners, service companies, pharmaceutical industry values about working with Frame, but also employees working in the organization?
Yeah, we're quite a small, tight-knit team, but we have lots and lots of collaborators in different spaces. I think in terms of what people enjoy about working with us and for us is that we are very open about the difficulties, but as you say, also the possibilities of new methods. It's a funny experience working for charities because you tend to be very passionate about the cause, but also you are working every day for your own end. You want your organisation not to. I'm like very much in because we have a very animalistic as a society. So you have to bring that passion, but with that focus on the end goal in mind. And I think people really get a lot of energy from having those discussions about saying, actually, what do I care about? What difference can I make in this space? And we facilitate them to do that. And that's the same approach for staff and for collaborators. We work with companies at different stages in the journey. Some use animals but want to implement better 3Rs policies and procedures. Some don't use animals at all and want to gain greater publicity for their products and services so that they can be used. Some are facing challenges in terms of scale up and the difficulties with the fact that a lot of new technologies are more expensive when they start until economies of scale and so on kick in. And so we work with different people wherever they are at on that journey in a very non-judgmental way. And I think that's what makes us unique.
Impressive. From your point of view, what are then the obstacles, the main obstacles to move away from animal testing in scientific procedures and testing? So what date shall we then put on our calendars when animal testing will be fully obsolete?